Hey guys, it is day 2 in the 3rd class of Mustang Magic.
It is going to be our trail course. You're going to see them do just the normal stuff that you would expect a horse to do out on the trail show. We're going to kick it off with Midnight Bell. Hip number 5 is going to start us here.
So the 3rd class of the Mustang Magic was the trail class, where they're essentially simulating some experiences that a horse might face when on a trail. The first obstacle proved to be quite a challenge for many of the Mustangs here. Again, the Mustangs in this challenge have only been in training for approximately 120 days. So all the Mustangs here are very green, but in addition, whenever you go to a new or different location, obstacles that they might be familiar with at home become new and scary. So the first horse ended up skipping the bridge and went on to the next obstacles.
Once again, this is Jeff Goodkip, number 14, DH Cactus Round, the 6-year-old buckskin mare.
One thing that can make objects more scary to horses is their vision is very different than ours. As prey animals, their eyes are on the sides of their heads, and their vision is meant for scanning their surroundings rather than focusing in on something. They do have a small range of binocular vision, meaning they can see with 2 eyes. To use that binocular vision, they will have to raise or lower the head depending on the distance of the object. In this case, they would have to lower the head to see better. Anyway, I was just sharing a reason horses can have a hard time with obstacles, but also they're just prey animals, and they're programmed to be skeptical. That's how they have survived.
Jessica Flaherty with Waffles, the 7-year-old buckskin mare. This is hip number 8.
Next up was Waffles, who had tied 1st in handling and conditioning and tied 4th in the basic maneuvers class the day prior. Waffles was the first horse to go over the bridge, and my goodness, what a wonderful mind this horse has. It seems like Jessica's done an amazing job with her. After the cones, the next obstacle was a pretty challenging one, a pinwheel. Towards the end of the run was the final gate, and then side pass over the rail.
Nice job,
That is our 7-year-old buckskin mare and a 23-year-old cowgirl doing one heck of a job. And Dior, the 5-year-old Palomino mare gathered from Sheepshed Creek Herd Management Area in Oregon. Here's one of our professional trainers and 3-day eventing competitors. This is Elisa Wallace on hip number 18, the 5-year-old Palomino mare. This is Dior.
Next up was Elisa and Dior. In addition to being a Mustang trainer, Elisa is also a 5-star 3-day eventer and a YouTuber. You might recognize her from her own channel. I know there are quite a few Dior fans here. The bridge continued to be a struggle for many of the horses here. So I've had a couple questions as to why the arena is so empty, and that's just because these are the preliminary classes. So these are the classes that kick off the Mustang Magic. They're not as fast-paced and entertaining as the freestyle events, and there's some gaps between the classes. It's really the diehard fans coming out to these classes. However, I do think it is beneficial for anyone who is thinking about adopting a Mustang someday. These are really great to attend and just observe the trainers, especially if you're planning on adopting from this event. Oh my goodness, I think it would be very important to go to these classes. They also give you plenty of time and space to interact with the trainers and ask questions about the horses and just meet people you probably wouldn't meet otherwise. Joe Misner, who you're watching here, used to run a prison program that trained inmates to train wild Mustangs. Now, I personally first heard about Mustangs through learning about a prison program similar to this over 20 years ago when I was a kid, and I remember wishing so badly that I could go to prison so I could participate in a program like this. That's when I started diving further into books about Velma Johnson or Wild Horse Annie and just learning more about Mustangs. That's really when my love for Mustangs began, and I later learned there was an adoption program, so didn't have to go to jail. Funny as that might be, as a kid growing up, I had just had this intense longing to work with horses someday. But it was Mustangs in particular that I had a heart for. 20 years later, the passion was still there, and I was able to adopt my first Mustangs. I now document my Mustang experience as the average person who didn't grow up with horses, and I try to share a bit of my learning journey along the way. In addition to vlogs with my own horses, going to events like this, I also attend Mustang pickup events where horses are adopted and share all kinds of helpful information for those who are interested in adopting their own Mustangs someday. I also interview Mustang trainers or other influential people in the horse world. Recently, I interviewed Jim Masterson, who's a body worker, and I hands down absolutely recommend anyone who has a Mustang or wants to adopt a Mustang someday to watch that video. I personally have a preference for low-intensity training that considers the horse's mind and emotions. The Masterson method goes hand in hand in that. I could say so much more, but just watch that interview. Go ahead and skip to the part that matters to you. I really don't care, but I just think it's so important, so definitely check it out. Anyway, I've gotten sidetracked a little bit, but yeah, this channel has all kinds of Mustang stuff, so subscribe if you want more. Alright, so we're now watching Krista with Cassie, or CC's Koana Cascade. Cassie is a sweet little mare. She just won the last class, the Basics Maneuvers class. You can see Cassie was trying so hard here, and Krista made sure to acknowledge the effort.
All right, Krista, let's go ahead and advance.
I loved how lighthearted she was when the announcer asked her to continue. No doubt with a little more time they would have gotten it, though. Next up was the Mustang Fancy. It's a little hard to see, but Fancy had an absolutely beautiful transition right there. Next up was the Palomino mare, Little Bitty. The next competitor was the fellow who didn't start riding until 45 and is now competing at 59.
Never too late to get into the horse business, that is for sure. This is hip number 15. This is Chris Phillips of Avon, Utah, and WFR Mocha Bay Latte, the 6-year-old bay mare.
Right before this class, I was actually able to connect with Chris and ask him for an interview, which he agreed to, so stay tuned for that. I find people like Chris really inspiring. I always love hearing stories of people who didn't grow up with horses or started later in life and seeing how far they've been able to come. This right here is a moment worth mentioning. Notice how at this point, Mocha Bay Latte's head is down and she's checking out the bridge here. All pressure is off. Now, I can't speak for Chris, but what I'm seeing is him acknowledging her trying because she is interacting with the obstacle that is a try. He's basically trying to keep her straight, and notice when she shifts her attention back to the bridge, he releases all pressure again. Here, Mocha Bay Latte took the opportunity to see, smell, and feel the obstacle. She wasn't being stubborn, she was trying, but she was just fearful. Increasing the pressure here would probably only serve to make her more anxious. Now, I have clipped this down a little bit, but this was a good example of that saying, take the time it takes so it takes less time. And doing so will simultaneously build the horse's confidence. Anyway, I thought that interaction was an important one to point out. And again, be sure to stay tuned for that interview with Chris, where we're going to talk more about how he got started with horses at age 45, what obstacles he had, and then also how he got started with Mustangs, so stay tuned for that one. I want to take a quick moment here and say thank you to the sponsor of this video, Mustang Champions. Now, at this event, there was also a Mustang Champions Freestyle, which is basically a performance put on by some of the top trainers in the country. It's an extra night of freestyle performances in addition to the Mustang Magic Freestyles, where the top 10 competitors of these classes compete. Anyway, I've got a lot more coming, but next up is the 4th and final preliminary class. Alright, these are the scores. So waiting to find out. Waffles just came in first for the trail. Here's the warm-up ring. Horses are getting ready for their final class. Tomorrow they're going to announce the top 10 finalists who will move on to the top 10 freestyle. The Mustang Magic Freestyle.